Choose a side, grab your room key, and get checked in. We just saw Bad Times at the El Royale. Let's get started.
Ba-da-ba-ba-da-ba-ba.
Hello everybody, welcome to Thumb Together. My name is Andrew Fantasia, and today we're going to be talking about Bad Times at the El Royale together. As usual, if you enjoy this video, please feel free to give it a thumbs up and give some love to that subscribe button as well. So what's the deal with this movie right here? Is it good? Is it bad? Does it, like the hotel itself, straddle a line and just sort of not really tilt one way or the other? Well, I think I might have to go with the third option. But let's rewind. Basic summary. Bad Times at the El Royale is a mystery, thriller, kind of noir story that takes place in the late 1960s, in which 7 characters are inside this old hotel, and a lot of very crazy, violent, off-the-wall shit starts happening involving kidnappings and bank robberies and secret cults and all kinds of weird stuff going on. All of it sort of coalesces in this seedy hotel that has seen better days. And all of these people in the hotel find themselves having to put their own secret lives in jeopardy in order to save their own actual lives. That's probably the best way to describe it. And by the end of it all, without giving anything away, the set is pretty much soaked in blood, and only 1 or 2 people are probably going to make it out of this hotel alive. Now, if you're thinking that this sounds an awful lot like a Quentin Tarantino movie, you'd be absolutely right. It feels an awful lot like a Quentin Tarantino movie, including its out-of-order storytelling, its multiple non-law-abiding characters, and the blood-soaked exploits that they have with one another, its long running time. Everything sort of feels Tarantino-esque, but this is not a Tarantino movie. This movie feels like somebody doing a very, very good impression of Tarantino. It's Tarantino karaoke, if you will. Now, the movie was actually written and directed by pretty much one of my favorite writers on the entire planet, Drew Goddard. And if you're not familiar with the name Drew Goddard, you should get very familiar with it, because he's the guy who gave you all of this. Yeah, you're welcome. He's one of those writers that I'm always, keeping an eye on. I always want to know what he's doing next because I always want to see it. Thus, Bad Times at the El Royale was a movie that has been on my radar since January. I remember looking up what's Drew Goddard up to. Oh, he's got a movie coming out this year called Bad Times at the El Royale. Great, I'm going to make a note to go see that because it's Drew Goddard. And I was more excited for this film than I was for a lot of films that came out over the course of 2018. But the real question, the reason you're all here is because you want to know, is Bad Times at the El Royale in fact a good time at the El Royale, or is it a bad time or a mediocre time? Well, here's the thing. This movie is beautifully shot, beautifully directed. The set decoration, on point. The actors, every single one of these actors brings their A game. This is a tour de force acting movie. However, as much as I hate to say it, because I really, really wanted to love Bad Times at the El Royale, when I walked out of the movie, I looked back at what I had just seen, and I thought to myself, what was the point of that story? What did I learn? What did the characters learn? What was the point that was being made? And I couldn't think of a damn thing. I really couldn't. And it's sad because this movie is almost catered very specifically to me because it has all the things about movies that I love. It has one of my favorite writers on the planet, both behind the pen and behind the camera. It's a quirky thriller mystery with a lot of colorful characters. I'm always down for that shit. It feels like a Tarantino movie. I love Tarantino movies. The score is done by Michael Giacchino, my favorite composer on the planet right now, too. It's a very long movie. I like my movies big and hefty, and it is a big, hefty movie. It has all of these fantastic things going for it, but what do they amount to? What is the sum of all these gorgeous, gorgeous parts? And the answer that I came up with was not very much. Just a very well-acted, well-shot movie that didn't amount to a whole lot. That was my problem, is that the story of this movie was kind of non-existent. It was a non-story. And maybe that's what Godard was going for, in which case he hit the ball right out of the park. But nothing in this movie matters by the time the credits roll. Not a damn thing. One of the characters is an FBI agent working undercover. At the end of the day, that doesn't matter. The opening scene shows us a huge bag of money being hidden under the floorboards in one of the rooms of the hotel, and at the end of the movie, that doesn't really matter. The villain of the picture only shows up at about the 45-minute mark, doesn't really have that strong of a motivation, and then when they defeat the villain, it doesn't really matter. The hotel itself is built on 2 state lines, so that when you're in one side of the hotel, you're in Nevada, and when you're in the other side of the hotel, you're in California. And I loved that idea, and I thought they were going to play with that, but it doesn't matter. It has nothing to do with the story. It's just a cool thing that the hotel is, I guess. There's a TV in the hotel that keeps showing news reports about a grisly murder that you think is going to be important, but that doesn't matter. That's never brought up. Somebody finds a reel of film showing very compromising images of somebody who is supposedly very famous and very powerful, and that film could really be a hefty blackmail tool if used properly, but it doesn't matter because it's never used. It's never even said who's on the film. None of that is ever taken into account. No, it doesn't matter. So at the end of the day, yes, I had fun. I laughed. I got teary-eyed a little bit. I even got scared. There are 3 separate moments in Bad Times at the El Royale where I literally jumped out of my seat. There was like a big jump scare moment 3 times. And 3 times it got me. I wasn't expecting that in a movie like this, but it got me. So this movie, just like all the great Drew Goddard pieces of work, runs the gamut of emotions. It can be funny and serious and scary and hilarious and odd and moving and heartbreaking. It can be all of those things. But once you get to the end of the ride, you're just like, well, okay. I guess that's what happened to the characters, the end. And it really didn't feel like anything was accomplished. It just felt like stuff happened in this hotel until it stopped happening in the hotel. And then everybody went their separate ways. I would absolutely watch this again because I want to try to look at it through a different lens and maybe see something in the narrative that I missed before, because I really do want to love this film. Throughout the majority of it, I was loving the film. I was like, oh my god, this is so much fun. It had like traces of the Hateful Eight to it, mixed with like some cool like period piece noir kind of action going on. I was really digging it. But then once we got to the finale and I was like, okay, it's clear that the credits are going to roll, I was like, well, what about all that stuff that I thought was part of the plot? I guess it wasn't. So I want to try to look at this again more objectively and sort of cancel out all my expectations and just look at what's on the screen, what's presented to me, and see if I enjoy it as much as I did the first time, because I did enjoy a lot of this movie until I realized that it wasn't really going anywhere. So now that I know it's not going anywhere, maybe I can enjoy it more because I won't be let down by that. I don't know. But should you see Bad Times at the El Royale? Yes. Because I'm sure there are a bunch of you out there who will enjoy this just as much as I did, and maybe even more. I don't think you'll hate it. I don't think anybody will watch this movie and be like, that sucked. I just think you might be either over the moon with it or pleased but kind of confused like I was. So that is Bad Times at the El Royale. This has been Thumb Together. Thank you so much for watching. I'm Andrew Fantasia. I will see you here next time, and until then, adios.